And after this, guys, we'll end very shortly. All right, welcome back. We are INFR3335U in the fall 2021 semester at Ontario Tech University, and it's week 6, and this is part 1, but it's actually part 3 of our broadcast. And today, we just finished talking about user interface design, but in this video, what I really want to focus on is a fix for some of our challenges when it came to Android and deploying from Unity to Android. How do we do that? Some people have been having issues when they launch Unity that it's asking you for the JDK, even though you know you've done everything you have to do. And our TA had that problem on Monday. He couldn't deploy from Unity to Android. And I'm just going to bring up a test project here in Unity to talk about this, right? So I kind of did this earlier with him when I fixed him. And let me talk about it in a second. So this is a 3D mobile kind of template that I'm using here in Unity. I'm using 2021 119F1, just like something that I've recommended that you use. And I've got a mobile template. So I've got my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus here on the left. And what I'm doing is, I don't have much in my scene right now, but let's suppose that I want to add in a very simple user interface. Again, the first thing that I would do in my Unity project is rename some of this basic stuff so that way it pops to me. So scenes should be at the top. You can use an underscore or some kind of square brackets. I find square brackets is even more descriptive. Inside there, simple sample scene. Let's change that to say main for example. Here we are. Here's main. And let's add a very simple user interface. I want to add a user interface that kind of shows us a panel. Here's our panel. And our panel also is going to connect to a button. All right, so let's say, for example, we're going to have a button in a bit of inner panel. We can layer in there some kind of text. So let's say, for example, our text is, and it's hard to see right now because it's where it's at, but let's make it so that it is bigger. It's very, very small. And we can use the canvas scaler to change this, right? As well as in the text item, we can use best fit, right? So we can increase how big it is. Yes, for the ICE Aiden, just rank them on a 5-point scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. If you look at 5-point Likert scale, it should kind of help you on what to do. So here's this, and I want to expand this item, the text item, right? So I want to make it bigger, and you can see that as I make this bigger, it will expand. If it's not enough, you can increase the size. So let's say, for example, I want to make it 80. You can see that that automatically changes the size of my text to the maximum that we're looking at. This is just a simple label, and I can make it so that something like, maybe a welcome, I want to kind of make this text say, welcome to my game, something silly and stupid, but I want to be able to kind of use this as a way of, I'm also going to use if I go to my my rect transform and I press the Alt key, so when I'm doing that, so again, I'm inside here from my text, rect transform, I press the Alt key, and notice what happens is I get this funky change happening. If I click the middle, it actually snaps to the middle of my screen. I can also make the interface snap to the top if I want to, and I can bring it down so it's kind of centered in the middle of my screen. Again, what I'd want to probably do is change the font style to bold and use a custom font. I'm not going to do that here, but let's suppose this is my game screen. Yay, it's really exciting. But what I want to do is add maybe some other things like a button, and I'm adding it to the panel. So the panel is the parent of my interface. So let's add another button. There we go. And again, just like we've done before, the text of the button is an object that's inside of the button. So it's a child of the button game object. And what we can do is we can do the same thing. I can choose best fit. I can choose the same thing, 80 as the largest fit for that one. And I can change the size of my button so that, again, it can match my requirements. So I can actually see it in my mobile device, right? So let's say my button is something like you know, this large. It's pretty large, right? And I'm just, again, eyeballing it. For you, you'd be more systematic and make it a much nicer button than this, my hope is. But you can see that it's centered and it's wrapped. And what I want to do for the button text is kind of make it say start, right? So, or some other kind of message for your interface, right? As an example, as we start moving. And let's also rename the button so it says start button. Yay, awesome. So the start button itself has the text, which is start, and it's centered in the interface. If I'm not certain that it is, again, I can use the rect transform and press the Alt key to kind of move it directly into the middle of the screen if I want it to be completely centered. And that's kind of an automatic thing. So again, I'm using this interface, and notice that my the thing that I'm seeing inside of my scene view matches what I see in the simulator. Okay. When I press play, you can see that the simulator is now active, and I can actually, you know, kind of press on the start button and it actually responds like any button would. So this is kind of neat. I want to put this up to mobile, and what I want to do is I want to pull up the my emulator, which is my LD player, and I want this thing to deploy to my LD player. So here I've got the latest version of LD player, version 4.067. And I want this to deploy to here or to an Android device. One of the things you're going to be doing for assignment for your project parts later on is deploying to mobile. So how do I do such a thing, right? Well, the settings that I have in my LD player are the following. And I think the TA went through these with you. 3040 by 1440 is the width and the height. I'm in the advanced tab in the settings tab, and I've clicked on customize. I've got a DPI of 480, and these are my settings here. One of the things that I also want to do is select a model. I recommend the preset is the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, which matches with the preset in Unity, just so that what you see is what you get, or WYSIWYG. All right, so that's kind of the settings that I have here in my LD player. Now that my LD player is launched, then if I go back to Unity, and if I was to go to File, Build Settings, right, and I need to add my open scene, so here's my main scene. Notice that I can go here, now that I've switched to Android, I did that off screen, I can switch to Android by, when you click on a different platform, you can switch to that platform. I've done that for Android already, and you can see that in my run device, I have my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus that's here in the emulator. If you don't get this, there's a couple of reasons. Sometimes you'll get an error that says something's not set up properly. Your NDK or your SDK is not set up properly. And but here are the settings that I recommend. The first thing you should do is check your settings if it's not running properly. One is in your player settings. First thing you want to do is change your company name so it meets with your GW team name. I recommend that, right? Whatever the product name is going to be called. So in your product name, that is the name, maybe the working title of your game. Put that in there. Whatever version you have of the game, you can have your own versioning system, but I recommend adding something or changing this as you continue to make new builds. Okay. In resolution and presentation, this is the next piece. Remember that most games don't support portrait upside down mode, so don't include this as an option. All right. Auto rotation allows you to change orientation, so change from portrait to landscape as an example. So you want to keep that on typically, unless your game is purely on a landscape type of, kind of viewport. You don't want to support portrait in your game world. And for 3D games, typically we choose one, kind of orientation or the other, but not both, typically, okay? What we want to also do here in our other settings is what I found is that when I'm supporting Vulkan, notice that I've removed Vulkan from my graphic API settings and that my color space is linear. Okay, I think these two things are pretty good. I don't want to select Auto Graphics API. That's 100% for sure. And as I go down, if I scroll down, I'm not changing anything else in here. Your package name should match in reverse DNS order, ca.Ontario Tech, let's say, if you were going to do that, you can rename it. By the way, the check mark allows you to rename. So on Ontario Tech, test project. You probably want to put it in lowercase, but you don't have to. And the version should match what you have up there. The minimum API level for now should be API level 19, and your target API should be automatic. Things to make sure that you have, if you ever want to publish this thing on a store, whether it's Google Play or what have you, even the Apple store, if you decide to make this work on Apple devices, is you must have a scripting backend that's IL2 CPP, and you must change your API compatibility level to .NET 4.0, whatever that's going to be. Make sure also that you check on ARM64 to support that if you change these settings. That's your settings. There's nothing else that you need for now. There's other optimizations you can make, and we will probably talk about them later this semester. But those are the options you need to get going with. Okay, when you're kind of putting together your settings for your game. Now, here are the challenges. What if you just don't see this run device and it's grayed out? Grayed out this run device, if it's grayed out, that means that something is wrong with your NDK, JDK, something is wrong in your setup. The couple things that I've asked the TA to do is, hey, uninstall, reinstall. First thing I'd like ask you to do. So remove Java if you're using it for Minecraft as an example or whatever, or if you've downloaded and installed Java for another course, it can clash with your Unity installation. And by the way we're doing things with Android and Unity is the exact same way for the most part. You'd be doing it with Unity and your Oculus Quest if you're using VR in the future. The Oculus Quest uses a skinned version of the Android operating system. So if you don't know how to do it for your Android device, then if you're planning to do something for VR, it will not work. You need to know how to do this here. All right, so cool. So first things first, we've done our settings. We know that we've kind of done everything we can. We've removed Java. If we have a problem, we've kind of used the built-in versions of Java here in with Unity. Sometimes we've had to uninstall Unity and reinstall it, and it still doesn't work. Well, here's the way that you can figure out where it's causing a problem. If I go to Edit, Preferences, you can see that down in Preferences for external tools, if you scroll down, you're going to see some information about your JDK and your SDK and your NDK and a bunch of these things here. If you look at the path, so if you look at this path right here, it is Program Files, Unity, Hub, Editor, the version of your editor, and inside of Playback Engine's Android OpenJDK, that's where it lives. So if you have a problem, this is where you'd have to replace it. Let's do that. Let's copy the path and go into my file system for a second and get in there. So how do I do that? I can edit my address and Control V for paste, and I can get right into my OpenJDK without trying to swim around my operating system. That is what I want to do. So if you've had to override those, like Sam says I had to override those to make it work, that's okay. But take a look at this, what you could simply do, and what I've done for you to make your life easy, and I fixed the TA's system in the exact same way, is up on Canvas. Take a look at Canvas. I have Android Tools Fix Link. Haha. What are these things anyway? If you click there, it'll take you to a Google Drive. That's my Google Drive. And you'll see a bunch of things here. ndk.zip, openjdk.zip, and sdk.zip. Some of them are pretty big, but these are working versions of your NDK, OpenJDK, and SDK that you can replace. So what you can do is you can go to your operating system and notice where it says OpenJDK, close down Unity if it's not working and replace this thing. Switch it right here. So inside of for your editor. Once you do it once, it's good for all of your projects. Get rid of start with one thing at a time, by the way. I recommend starting with OpenJDK. Replace OpenJDK. This entire folder, it may not look like this. Kill it and unzip my version of the OpenJDK and install it here inside of your editor. Okay? There's no pathing that you need to do in Unity. It is the exact place where it would be looking for this stuff. And then the next thing is replace your SDK. This whole SDK folder right here. Kill it, download my zip file, and replace it. And that, my friend, for the most part, should fix you. I've also included the NDK just in case, but it's a gig. And when you unpack it, it's worth about 3 gigs. So be careful about this one. But if you need to install any of these things, I've made them available to you up on canvas. So you can download and install the ones that work. And like I said earlier, it worked great for the TA. He was able to deploy nicely to LD Player. Let me show you how that works. For the deployment piece, now that these are working properly, I would have relaunched Unity to make sure, and I want to see this message, JDK installed with Unity based on blah, blah, blah. In my file build settings, I want to be able to see the run device now as my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, which is in my emulator because I'm running it on LD Player. And what I want to do is click on build and run, build and run. And when I do so, right, I want to choose a new folder. Normally I call it builds. And inside the builds folder, I can name my project. Okay, it's going to be the APK or the Android package that I'm going to build and save inside that folder. When I click save, it's going to do the build. And while you're watching me, if you're going to watch me live, I'm going to spark out. If you're watching me on YouTube, or if you're watching me here, or you're listening to me here, I might turn into a robot while I'm doing this, as I'm converting this into a project that is viable and working on an Android device. It's going to take some time. And the good thing about this is it is incremental. So once you do your first build, the second build is easier, third build, I'm sparking out already. You can see it right now. If you check me out, I might be sounding like a robot, but you can see what's happening. It's converting our C# code and anything else that I have in here. Luckily, I have no code. I'm just trying to convert my interface into something that's compatible with LD Player, and it should kind of spark across. Okay, let's wait till this happens. I'm sparking out here. I can see myself kind of moving in like with my 5 frames per second. As it's taking up all my CPU and GPU resources to do this. All right, let's see how this works. Any questions around this whole process? I know, I'm so sorry, Jonathan. I know it's a dying mic, but it's not. What it really is it's taking up all of my resources to make this happen. Okay, which is good, actually, because it's fascinating. All right, so it's kind of doing this. It's compiling, and the key here is once I see my Gradle process working. All right, so once it says I'm making a Gradle build, I'm pretty much good to go. All right, so we're not quite there yet. You're compiling native assemblies. Oh yeah, I'm sparking out nice now. Might have been hearing me as a robot as this is happening, or even on YouTube. I'll kind of go into robot mode for a second as it's happening, taking up a lot of my resources. But once this is done, you'll see that this works nice. Anybody have any of those problems, for example, for your Android build? Because you're going to need to do this for not this project part, but the one that's after this one and the one after that. It's going to be a mobile build of your game, okay, that you're going to be producing. Here it is, building Gradle project. Once I get to this part right here, we're almost golden. We're very, very close for it to be deployed. And you're going to see the difference. From here on, it's a very close process to be done. You can see that it takes about 2 minutes every single time we do a build. So think about this. So there we go. Copying the APK, and we're good to go. And when I look at this thing on LD Player now, here it is on LD Player, you can see that it's very wide, right? And it's different than I thought it would be, okay? So why is that? Well, because my LD Player is, something that is in landscape mode, and I plan my interface for it to be portrait mode. And because I didn't plan my interface to be responsive or adaptive, it deployed this way. But it still does what it's supposed to do. It did exactly what I asked it to do. To stop it from changing my orientation, like I said before, and by the way, one thing that happens with this mobile template, it brings up something called Android Logcat, which is a logging system that gives you not only the call stack, but all kinds of other information. You can actually see any kind of debug logs here inside Android Logcat that runs with the mobile template. All right, so this is kind of an important thing to have up and running, and as it's connected to your mobile device. So you can see that this is what's happening here. Now I don't have anything that actually, my object or my buttons don't actually do anything right now, but this is kind of proof that everything is able to move across. One more thing to show you. And again, in LD players, you can kill the tab. So I can kill my project. And if I was going to deploy this thing again, and I wanted it only to be in portrait orientation, and to force LD player to show portrait orientation, then what I could do is, again, I can go to File, Build Settings, and into Project Player Settings, and down into Resolution and Presentation, and remove those options. Remove Landscape Right and Landscape Left. So now it only supports a portrait orientation. Save your project, right? Save your scene. So again, save your scene, save your project, and then build and run again. And once you do this again, the next time, you'll notice that the process is a little bit faster. Guys, after this, we're done. Questions from you guys while this is happening? Again, it should be fairly straightforward. So really, that's it. A couple things to go over. You can see that this is way faster. Look at that. It went right to building the Gradle project because I didn't really change much. I just changed the orientation values, right? So from 2 minutes, almost 3 minutes and a half, right to LD player, the whole process went a lot faster. And you can see that we have now the proper orientation on my in my emulator, right? So it works, or it looks almost exactly how it did in my in Unity. Okay. Any questions at all before we stop for the day? That's your fix. If you have a problem, again, like I said, please use the tools that I've given you for you to use. Okay, you have access to this to look at this folder and to grab any of the tools you need. Okay, let's get back up to what we're doing here. This is the link, and that's not what I was hoping. Let's go back into modules. So that's it for today. Again, one more thing before we go for the day. Please be sure to hand in your in-class exercise. Again, due Friday at midnight. It's a short writing exercise that you have to take off. And again, by this weekend, you should see all your marks pretty much are going to be deployed and released. Most of you have done very, very well for both the things that I've asked you guys to do, as well as for your written portion of your midterm test. I think it was done very, very well for the most part. And thank you for that. So most of you will be, I think, pretty much delightfully surprised with your marks. I think it's going to be pretty good. Okay. Some of you, and you know who you are. It really depends on what you've submitted. I mean, if you've submitted something to me that is minimal, then some of the things you're going to get back is going to be minimal, but it's not because I'm going to try my best, guys, to let you know this, that I'm going to give you as high marks as I can. That's my job, is to kind of give you the best marks I can. I start at 100 and I count backwards. That's what I do when I mark. So you should be able to see that coming forward for this weekend. Okay, any questions before we end for the day? And that's it. All right, guys, then thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording this on YouTube. And I'll see you guys next week. Good luck.